Today on Locked On Red Wings, we're going to recap the end of season availability that each Red Wings player held.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's also host over at Locked On Tigers. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. Your eyes got really big there when I mentioned Locked On Tigers. What was with that there, buddy?
Frustrating starts to the year.
Yeah, definitely frustrating.
Very frustrating. And it's like, frustrating.
Yeah, they split that doubleheader. You know, you had
Just
Fido.
like I want the community, I want the fan base, like I want everything to be like fun and
Instead it's stressful.
Everybody's happy and like everyone likes each other. And no, like the team had expectations and they're not even close to living up to it. So everything's toxic as hell. And it's just exhausting and frustrating.
Well, that's what happens when the bar is raised. The Red Wings season this year, the bar was pretty low, and so they exceeded it pretty easily this season. And a lot of the players had end-of-the-year availability, specifically Nedeljkovic, Larkin, Raymond, Fabbri, Staal, Gagner, Bertuzzi, and Rasmussen. And I admittedly did not get a chance to watch the Rasmussen one, so we won't be covering that one in here. We'll touch on all the rest of them. There's a lot to get to, and a lot was said. But I felt like, Scotty, the overall sentiments of every single player was the same. And it's that, and a lot of it is, athlete speak. They're told by their agent, this is how you interact with media. You don't want to give them too much. And some people on this team, Larkin in particular, are very good at not giving you. He's the one I took the least amount of notes on from his post, his end of the season availability. People asked him a lot of questions about the season, and he just said, it was a tough year. We took a step forward in some ways, step back in others. Rebuilds are frustrating. I want to win, but I also am patient. A lot of fence-sitting quotes. So I'm not really going to talk to you about that, but the one thing that he did say that got an actual legitimate answer out of Dylan Larkin in this situation was that somebody asked him about, the playoffs and what it's like, be watching watching other teams play. And he was talking about, well, if you look at the difference between playoff teams and what we do, it's the playoff teams communicate so much better on the ice. It's constantly if something's going on, somebody's saying something on the ice. And he said that was something that the Red Wings don't quite have yet in their own team. And this isn't the first time he's brought this up, I feel like. I think he brought that up last year during an interview as well, where he's like, the team just doesn't communicate. And not everyone's in it fitting together at the same time. So I thought that was interesting that was one of the core problems he brought up when talking about how the team kind of course, fell apart.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, at the very beginning of his career, right? He saw semblance of that too, which makes you believe him even more, right? Because when he was a rookie, he was still seeing the guys from that era and still seeing that caliber of hockey, at least at the very beginning. And so I think that very much, like I said, it just makes you believe him. It just makes you be like, oh yeah, that's probably fair then, because he's seen it in person when he was younger and has seen the team evolve and seen a whole new generation of Red Wings now come in. And it's one thing to, it's just interesting that he sees it has experienced it in two different ways. He's experienced watching it. He experiences it on the ice when he plays against those playoff teams. And he's experienced it at the very beginning of his career when he was still with a team that had a lot of pieces that were still, playoff caliber, or at least some semblance of. So it is just fascinating to hear him say something like that when he's been either watching or around or witnessing secondhand that type of team.
Well, and what's really interesting too is when they asked that question, I thought, and he started talking about playoff teams and playoff caliber teams. I thought he was going to go in a direction of like player personnel, the types of players that those
Mm-hmm.
teams had. Because that's what Steve Eisman had talked about during his end of the season. I was really surprised that he went with the communication route. Like he almost as if, and this is just speculation on my part, but almost as if he feels like if the communication was better, that they would have at least competed a lot more. Which seems like a no dust statement, but I mean,
For sure.
having, and I'm not trying to compare what I do to what these professional athletes do, but like talking on the ice is really, it honestly is a game changer. Because if you can communicate with your teammate what's going on, like the ability to let other people know where things are at, like you don't realize how much you don't recognize is happening until somebody says something. Like that's why when a player's, if someone dumps the puck in and the defenseman's going back to retrieve it, your teammate should be yelling like man on, man on, man on. Like that's the kind of communication. Not saying they don't do it at all, but clearly Larkin is saying that it needs to happen more for the Red Wings. But this is all just cherry picking in this regard. The other thing that Larkin said in regards to the team is that it killed him to sit at home after a surgery and watch Tyler Bertuzzi get his 30th goal, because he's like, and this is a sentiment that everyone they interviewed carried, was that everyone loves Tyler Bertuzzi. And you could see it in how the team reacted. Everyone said the same thing. You could see it in how the team reacted. Everyone loves Tyler Bertuzzi, and everyone was so happy that I got that 30th goal. And Dylan Larkin said that personally for him, it killed him to have to sit at home and watch that TV.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was a reoccurring thing with several people, right? Like Bert said, was asked about that as well. I mean, that was definitely a reoccurring theme, and at one point Bert was just straight up asked, like, do you have to look in the mirror? Like, do you have to, is everybody gonna look in the mirror and be like, like it's been years of that now for some of the people that have are longer tenured, and I mean, he said yes, and like, take that with what you will. Like you said, some of it's
How
athlete
could it
speak, but
not
like,
be?
right, but like you kind of have to say yes. Like you haven't made the playoffs in forever, and so it is definitely interesting. But I do think that even you know hockey player speak aside, I do think that the general vibe I got was that everybody was making it apparent that the locker room culture is like very much like we're trying to win always, and not a quote unquote rebuilding type of situation.
Well, it's also really interesting too in regard to the Tyler Bertuzzi thing. Um, they it seemed like all year there was a narrative online because of the whole COVID thing that was going on, which no one asked about in the post game, the end of season press conference. That almost like Bertuzzi was an odd man out in the locker room, and that was almost like a narrative that was getting pushed online. But it was very clear that that's not the case. That everyone in the locker room loves Tyler and loves what he brings to the team. So I thought that was really reassuring to see that it's not like there's not any kind of fictitious tension in the locker room, and that everyone is supporting everyone. And that is also a theme that I noticed too. Is like despite how poor they were playing, and because Nedeljkovic talked about it, and I want to touch on that soon. But everyone in that locker room played together as a team, despite how rough it was at times. Larkin did also say so his surgery's already done. He says he's on pace to be ready for training camp. Should be fine, he says. So that's also really reassuring to hear. Robby Fabbri, on the other hand, gave no timeline because it was ACLs being a catastrophic injury. There really is no timeline. It seems like.
Yeah, and when did that happen? Like like January?
Yeah, it was somewhere around there, and he had surgery.
So
Like
like,
he said, he's 5 weeks out from surgery.
goodness, man. Yeah, I mean, like that could be man. I don't know. That's sad.
It
That
is
could
really
be
sad.
that doesn't seem like an opening night type of situation.
Not when you say it like that. I mean, he gave no. He's like, I'm gonna listen to my body, and when I'm ready, I'm ready. It's like, ooh,
Not
yikes.
great.
But you know what is great, Scotty?
Built bars?
No, Athletic Greens.
That is great. I agree. Start my morning off with it.
There you
Do
go.
we
Our
have a
next,
banner for it?
we do, I believe. Nope, I'm a liar. This next product is a product you should use literally every day. Scotty, I know you use Athletic Greens. Can you give us a little bit of taste as to why you like it so much?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed what the positive effect it was having on my body and just like my day-to-day just like routine really quickly and really early on. And they sent all the hosts like an intro box well over a month ago, just to like kind of, you could test it out so that when you're doing your ad read, you knew what you were talking about. Now I've re-upped it, and like I'm getting my next set, and it's phenomenal, and it helps with so much. Like that green powder is a lot of health professionals talk about it and everything, and I had never done anything like it before, but I just started doing it every morning as part of my routine, and then next thing you know, I really do stand by it, and I'm gonna keep re-upping it every month I run out. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods. That's a mouthful. Probiotics and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your recovery, energy, focus, and aging, all those things. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover. It costs $100 a day. Athletic Greens is climate neutral certified company. In 2020, AG purchased carbon credits that support projects protecting old growth rainforests. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supplement supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment 2, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. We're going over the end of the season press conferences that a lot of these players held the last 2 days. We talked a lot about Larkin in the first segment. I really want to touch on Alex Nedeljkovic because I think out of all the players that were interviewed, Scotty, he had the most honesty to say. And that sounds almost like a backhanded, not even backhanded, just like a straight up insult to the other players. But these guys are trained to talk a certain way to media. And that way is don't reveal your hand. And I'm sure having Steve Yzerman as your general manager it's kind of accentuated. But Nedeljkovic really made no qualms with saying how he felt on certain things, and it's very refreshing. They asked him a lot about the season and the ups and downs because, obviously Yzerman had said before, like his mental fortitude and coming out on top. And he mentioned that, he has played long seasons before and he has had deep playoff runs. So it's not necessarily that the season was overbearing and long for him, but he said it was definitely a grind at times because of the competition level. And beyond all that, he was just very happy with himself that he said he was proud of himself with how he handled the adversity, but he says that he definitely fell short of some of his own personal goals while achieving other ones.
Yeah, I mean, which is, nice to hear, right? I mean, it's nice to hear that somebody like that was it's just nice to hear players set the bar high when the seasons have just been so brutal for so many years now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's just nice to hear that the players are trying to set the bar high and everything like that. So I think that is, at the end of the day, that's just really, really nice to hear.
Yeah, he did get really fired up, though, because people began asking him about like the rebuild process and being patient. And he's like, he basically said that if anyone in the locker room comes into the season or is on this team in the locker room spewing nonsense like this is a rebuild year, we're not expected to make the playoffs, that there's no room for that type of player on the roster. And I
Good.
loved that
Good.
because obviously you and I, Scotty, know that this team is a rebuilding team. But if you're a player, you're going out there to try and win every single night. And he said, I'm trying to win every single game by game. I'm trying to win every single game. He's like, I'm trying to win a Stanley Cup. He says, I don't care what the organization is doing, if we're rebuilding or not. We come in and we try and play every night. He did say, because when he first started kind of getting like that, I was like, oh man, was there somebody in the locker room who was like half-assing it? But then, he of course followed up with it. There's no one on the team that's like that. But he's like, I just don't like the rebuild mentality. And I'm like, this is phenomenal. To actually hear a player talk about this and like give his honest opinion, like it's so refreshing to hear. And of course, it would be a goalie, right? Like, it always seems to be a goalie who just has no qualms with just being like, this is me. This is who I am.
Well, I mean, the dude deserves it after the defense that was played in front of him all year. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, goodness gravy. If anyone deserves to talk about the mentality of the team and not wanting to win, I think it probably is him. So yeah, no, it's awesome to hear though.
Yeah, absolutely. And they asked him about everyone or all the media asked every player, it seemed, but they asked him about Moritz Seider. But I think Nedeljkovic had probably the most insightful thing to say about like what it's like to play with Moritz Seider and play behind Moritz Seider. First and foremost, he said that Seider was incredible every single night. He showed up and played on every power play, penalty kill, power play, or I said power play, even strength. Power play twice, guys.
He showed up on the power play, the penalty kill, the power play, even strength, the power
play. But he showed up and showed out every single night, and he improved across the season. Even amidst all that adversity, he was a standout player all season long. And he also said that when they asked him what's it like to play with Moritz Seider, like on a personal level, he said he's just a kid who's playing a game. And he said and he didn't mean it negatively. He said that's what it should be. He actually used the term like that's how it should be, because he's only 20 years old and he's a rookie. Like he should be living his life and having a ball right now, because the locker room needs that kind of like mentality. They need that kind of guy around. He's like, everyone on the team enjoys having Moritz Seider around. And he should just focus on having fun. And he said that's what Moritz Seider does. Like he came in every day and he seemed to have fun, and the locker room needed that.
which is awesome,
Yeah.
And especially like, again, for just what the last 2 months were, like, that's at least nice to hear that, it wasn't just like a cloud over everybody's head and everyone was just miserable and like, oh, we can't win a game for the last 2 months. Like, at least we had some, some youth and some fun in there. I don't know. Like, for as much as it sucks and for as much as you want everybody to be like, I want to win all the time, whatever, like, and have that mindset, like you can do both. You can be like Miguel Cabrera is a great example. It's a little kid in a 40-year-old's body, and he's one of the greatest players ever. And that's, it's possible to be great and have that mindset while also, goofing around sometimes.
Yeah,
Keeping
and then
things light, I guess I should say.
Then he finished the presser basically with a little bit of a guarantee. He said that.
Oh yeah, he said we won't be here next year.
He said he wouldn't let this happen again. Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's pretty
Especially
huge.
Like, again, hearing that from your goalie, that's crazy, dog. Like, what is he about to do?
And it's not even like whether or not that comes true, but the fact that he has such strong conviction that like he is going to improve and the team's going to improve, like that's why he was the most interesting interview, because your goaltender who just had a down year by his standards, although we understand like all the circumstances that go into that year, is saying we won't be here again next year. Like he's saying this team is going to have a massive improvement next year. And that is so reassuring to see from anyone in these, like that is something that we didn't see out of any of these post-game press conferences, or not post-game, but postseason press conferences. Nobody said anything along those lines. Nobody had the courage to come out and say how they really felt and what they were really feeling, except for Alex Nedeljkovic. And we desperately, and again, I don't fault these players for talking the way they are, because they're protecting themselves and they're protecting the team by being careful with how they phrase things. But Alex Nedeljkovic's entire press conference just felt very genuine and felt very positive. Like even when he was talking about the negatives, he was very candid in the fact that like there are areas I didn't live up to my own expectations for sure. But he's like, I won't let this happen again. It's like it felt like he had a personal accountability that other players, I wouldn't say didn't have. I'm sure they all have personal accountability, because a lot of them were asked about like how much do you blame on, coaching, how much do you blame on players playing, and they're all like, oh, it's both. Like obviously it's both, but we're trying to gauge how you feel. And Nedeljkovic was the only player who did not sell you short on how he felt,
which is awesome. And again, like hearing that, like the goalie is the one person that like if he were to just go crazy and just like save everything, could single-handedly will that to happen. So like
yeah.
hearing that from that position of all positions is nuts, honestly. Like insane to think about. So good on him. I love it. I absolutely love it.
You know what else I love?
Me.
I do love you. I do. Get
So
right
far?
reads. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info.
How do you
Find all
not
the
have a
way to
Bet Online
sports
banner?
development,
What are we doing?
league reviews, and news. Just walking past that, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball, and this weekend's run to the Roses as the Kentucky Derby is back. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. I needed that one. I needed a softball real bad.
I need a Bet Online banner.
You'll get one when you get one.
Okay, dude.
You get
All right.
nothing and you like it, okay? Just,
All right, man.
just back off. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast.
So ridiculous.
We have fun here. Let's just clean up real quick the rest of these guys. Tyler Bertuzzi, I guess, is the other one people are going to want to hear us talk about. He mentioned about what it meant for him to get 30 goals. He said that everyone in the locker room, it was coming together. It almost felt as if the team was using him trying to get to 30 goals as like a reason to continue to play. And
Yeah.
like, not that these players need a reason to continue to play, but it gave them a goal to shoot for, literally in Bertuzzi's case. But you didn't even hear that.
I did, and literally in Bertuzzi's case, haha. No, but it was cool though, because like the reaction when he got it was
Yeah, that's exactly the thing,
awesome.
right?
Yeah,
Like Raymond was
everyone.
jumping up and down on the bench.
Yeah, it was super cool, and it was very much like it felt like a team accomplishment.
It did. It very much was. It was an accomplishment for the entire team. They did ask him about his back because obviously he had that back surgery last year. He said he got sore at one point during the season, but after a couple of days off, it got better and it never bothered him again, which is also another thing that's really reassuring to hear when a player especially with Bertuzzi's style of play, has a productive year the way he does. You're like, okay, but previous injuries, how much will that come into play later in his career? It's really nice to hear that it didn't really, besides it getting sore early in the season, it went away and it didn't come back.
But yeah, that's very reassuring, especially in the looms of contract extension talk. That's very much what everybody wants to hear. That's for sure.
One of 4 players in this crop of postseason interviews who are all looking for a new contract this offseason.
Him, Staal,
Larkin and
Gagner.
Gagner.
Who else?
Larkin. He's looking for an extension.
Oh yeah, Larks, I guess. Yeah, true.
So, Gagner again reiterated the whole 30 goal thing for Bertuzzi. He and Staal both said they haven't spoken yet to Steve Yzerman. But Gagner did say, it's Steve Yzerman, right? You trust that he's going to do the right thing for the club. And like the way he said it, almost it felt like it implied, not just like because of his general managing track record, but also because he's just Steve Yzerman. He's one of the best players to ever play. Like when Steve Yzerman says something, you just trust it. Like it's kind of crazy. Like obviously us as fans are gonna have like kind of blind faith in Steve Yzerman at this point because of what he meant to this organization prior to being general manager. But the fact that the players as well seem to have almost, and it could again just be athlete talk as to not trying to reveal their hand. But the fact that these players also seem to be like, well, it's Steve Yzerman, so you just kind of trust that he's going to do the right thing.
Yeah, but like
it's kind of insane.
I don't even think that's like have you ever heard a player in any sport talk about a GM the way that players talk about Steve Yzerman?
I mean, look at when they signed Bobby Ryan
Wow.
2 off seasons ago. I'm on one today. When they talked to Bobby Ryan in his introductory
Steve
press
Yzerman.
conference, he said that Steve Yzerman was the reason he came. He said Steve Yzerman sold him. It seems like every single player that they interview, when they sign him to a contract and bring him in, they always quote Steve Yzerman as being the reason why they wanted to be here, that they bought into what he was selling. And that's so huge because let's face it, I mean, Detroit's not like a prime destination. I mean, in terms of hockey, it is because it's hockey town, but it's not like California. It's not Florida. It's not, New York City or Chicago, which are the big cities that everyone always Googles and has those googly eyes for. It's not like the major media hockey town like Toronto, although people hate going to Toronto too because of the media. I mean, Steve Yzerman being able to sell free agents on coming here is massive. He's able to sell them on the history. He's able to sell them on the hope that they'll be that team again. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And the fact that, like I said, I have never heard any player talk about a general manager in any sport in my lifetime the way that players talk about Steve Yzerman, the general manager. And that's awesome. And like you said, that's something so unique to the Detroit Red Wings that no one else can take away from us and no one has over us.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of Sam Gagner, though, and this is like off topic, I guess a little bit, but I would completely be down, and him and Marc Stahl too. But Sam Gagner especially, man, I would love to have him back. I really think that if they were to re-sign him, he would be a great candidate to wear an A next year. Out of the interviews, I said Nedeljkovic was the most interesting, but Gagner just has a way he carries himself in interviews. He just seems like he has that leadership vibe. You know what I'm trying to say? He
Yeah,
just feels like
absolutely.
he's a natural born leader. And I honestly think that if he comes back next year, he should get an A on this team.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, like obviously I, want to see what else happens in the offseason.
Oh,
A lot
absolutely.
of offseason left, but yeah, no, I don't mind that at all. And for what it's worth, I think that Stahl wore it great this year. I think by pretty
Oh, yeah.
much any account of any player you talk to about Marc Stahl, it's veteran presence, veteran leadership, and like dad
Yeah.
is like how everybody describes him. So like um I think that he very much wore it well, and I think Gagner kind of fits that same mold that they're going for. We even talked about that article about a month ago.
Yeah.
That article about him and where all the players were pretty much attesting to the same qualities in Gagner too. So yeah.
Well, and so I guess, and the overarching sentiment I got from all of these is basically everything we already knew. Like, it was a season that they were playing really well, and then the wheels really fell off. Actually, Larkin did say one more thing that was really interesting. Is he talked about how the trade deadline really affected the team's productivity because there were guys in that locker room that the team really loved, really respected, and those guys brought their all every single game, and then they got traded away, and then he thinks that really affected like the team's ability on the ice as well as morale. And I have my own biases as to who he's referring to. Obviously, we know who got traded away, and Leddy, Stetcher, and Nemesnikov. But I feel like out of those three, it'd probably be Nemesnikov that would have brought the most, energy in that lineup night in and night out, and probably Leddy from a leadership standpoint because he's worn an A and is a Stanley Cup
Yeah.
champion on previous
I mean,
organizations.
like for what it's worth, not that Letty was lighting the world on fire, but like for what it's worth, look how much worse the defense got even after Letty left.
Yeah, which says a lot. I mean,
Like Letty wasn't even lighting the world on fire, and he had plenty of his own, um, struggles and such on the defensive end. But I mean, this defense went from bad to worse after just his departure and pretty much no other change. So
yeah. So I guess in the end, the overarching theme was just everything we already knew. Good first half, very frustrating second half.
and the players are ready to win,
The
which is
players are
nice.
ready to win, but they also acknowledge they may have to stay patient too. Yeah, that's pretty much everything we already knew. It was just one of those postseason press conferences after you get eliminated from the playoff contention that everyone's a little bit down and out, but also trying to just, do their jobs. They're just here so they don't get fined.
For
What it
sure.
felt like at a lot of times. So
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
really interested in. So we didn't get to hear from Moritz Seider, and I was really hoping we would. I don't know how his English is pretty good. We've seen the Mojo show, so I was hoping to hear from Moritz Seider because I'm sure that would have, knowing him, would have been a really interesting interview. But he
Yeah,
already might have
I'm
skedaddled back to Germany. So
yes, I'm sure it would have been because it's Moritz Sider, but
oh, did I mention Nedeljkovic is playing for the United States in Worlds?
I think I don't know if you did or didn't.
He said Nedeljkovic said he's going to play in Worlds because it's an honor and that he wants to play meaningful hockey into the summer. Well, as Lucas Raymond said that he's not playing for Team Sweden at Worlds for the opposite reason. So he played an 82 game season and he's tired and wants just time off. And it's like those
Which
are
I
both
think
very valid
right.
viewpoints to
I
have.
mean, like we talked about, Raymond played 82 games as a rookie, so like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And Ned, um, obviously didn't play 82 games and is looking to stay fresh and stay hot. So I think it makes sense completely on both fronts.
And not to beat a dead horse, but man, is it insane that Sider and Raymond were two of the three players that played all 82 games this season. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
crazy. Who was the other one?
Pew Shooter.
Oh,
He's
right.
playing for Team Switzerland, by the way.
Good for him, man.
Thanks for being Locked On Red Wings, your first listen every day. Now make your
You're
second listen
welcome.
Locked On NHL. From first round matchups to each Stanley Cup kiss, Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday.
BetOnline.
It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I almost said
I got him. I'm in his head. He's so rattled.
you
That
live
was
rent
such a
free.
good one.
You live rent free.
Rattled the heck out of him.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Get wrecked, dude.
I miss playoff hockey.
Yeah, me too, man.
I was watching that Toronto Tampa game before we started
It's been
recording,
so long.
and it is insane. I'm just like, it's a completely different game. I miss it so much.
Me too, man. Just like the thing I miss the most about it is just the vibe in the city. Like everybody feels it, man. Like you go into work and everybody, like I would go into school and my one of my teachers would be playing Red Wings, fine Red Wings, come on, let's fly. Like before every playoff game in the morning, if the Red Wings played in the playoffs that night, he was blasting in his classroom every morning. Like it's just like you go into whatever like stores and they have the Red Wings flags out, like everybody's talking about it. It's just different, man. Like I miss it. I miss any, like, if that's a whole different thing, but like if any of these four teams were remotely competent, this city would erupt with support, and
We're just desperate for
just
anything.
nobody can get it done at the moment.
Oh. Any final thought?
On the up and up, though. On the up and up. Don't
On
sleep.
the up and up.
My final thoughts are Wee Ball.
We ball. Back with a new episode tomorrow with what should be a very special guest. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.